Dear students, I am Naushi Nizami, and in today's session we are going to start chapter 7, which is on general and partial equilibrium theory. So, in general, partial equilibrium basically implies when you are trying to analyze any one sector, one market structure, or one industry in detail, keeping everything else constant. And general equilibrium analysis occurs when analysis of all the industries or all the sectors or all the markets is undertaken simultaneously. That's the general difference between these two terms. In case of general equilibrium, this diagram of circular flow of income is very useful to understand, and we can easily relate to it because in the circular flow of income and output, we actually acknowledge the interdependence between different entities in our country. As you can see, we have right now in this diagram only a two sector model, so households and firms. You can even bring in the foreign sector, the government, the money or banking sector. So all these sectors can be brought into the same diagram when we understand circular flow of income and output. But to keep it simple, if we just take these two entities, it's important to see that how they are interdependent on each other. So households are the ones who raise the demand for goods and services, and in order to buy goods and services, they spend. So households are spending on goods and services, and how is that money coming from? How is that money coming for spending on goods and services? It's coming from the money income which they are receiving from the firms. Now, how do they receive money income from the firms? For that, you need to look at what is the other interrelationship between households and firms. So, households basically are owners of factors of production. They provide factor services to the firms, and using those factor services, firms produce goods and services. And as a compensation, as a reward for the factor services provided by households, firms provide them money income. So you can say that in return of, say, land, labor, capital, or entrepreneurship skills, firms give back to the households wages, rent, interest, so and profits. So basically, that's how households and firms are connected to each other in one way. And the second dimension is that after the commodities and services have been produced by the firms, they are sold to the households, and in return, households spend on these goods and services, and that becomes the income of the firms. So both of these entities are interrelated, and they cannot operate in a vacuum. We can't study, we can't imagine a household or a firm working in isolation of each other. Let's try to understand this entire process in more detail to know that what is the difference as well as significance of the terms general equilibrium and partial equilibrium. For that, let's start with the definition. So what is partial equilibrium? It's basically an analysis of a sector or market in isolation, and this analysis studies the behavior of individual decision making units and the working of individual markets for commodities and inputs under various market structures. So you can study the individual markets of say an automobile in monopoly. Also you can look at the individual markets for milk in perfect competition. Also you can look at the individual market for biscuits in monopolistic competition also. So there are several market structures, there are several commodities and services which are produced, and then there are several industries which are producing these and linking consumers with markets. So all of these can be studied in isolation. We have so far in even our microeconomic syllabus, we have studied, we have discussed many of the concepts which were actually being discussed through partial equilibrium approach. So in consumer theory, we restricted our attention to utility maximization behavior, and for that we saw the various approaches of utility maximization like cardinal approach, ordinal approach, reveal preference approach, and we try to understand the equilibrium of the consumer. So the ultimate objective of a consumer is to maximize utility given the income constraints and given the prices of goods and services. And these are basically said to be given, they are exogenous and they are not determined in the consumer theory. So we basically assume a lot of things when we are understanding the equilibrium of a consumer. Similarly, demand and supply theory, when you try to derive a demand curve or you try to derive a supply curve, and then after the intersection of demand and supply curve you obtain an equilibrium, that is also a partial equilibrium analysis. Even the previous chapter, which was on input markets, where we were trying to obtain labor demand and labor supply curve, and on the basis of it we were trying to see that what would be the decision making of a firm, how much labor would the firm hire, whether it is a perfectly competitive firm or it's a monopoly firm. That was also a partial equilibrium analysis. And in general, you can think of equilibrium in any market. For example, you can see the market equilibrium in strawberry market, or the market equilibrium in wooden furniture. All these would be analysis in isolation. So supposingly you look at the impact of lockdown on textile industry, or you look at the impact of lockdown on, say, FMCG industry, or you look at the impact of lockdown on automobile industry. All of these are examples of partial equilibrium analysis, because in conducting such studies we would be focusing only on one sector, one industry, or one market. Contrary to this, general equilibrium recognizes the interdependence among different economic units, and it takes into account the various interactions and interdependencies within various parts of the economy. So in general equilibrium analysis, one may start from the interactions in one market, but we also keep the analysis open to check that how this particular market may be interdependent with other markets. So, for example, if we see that in general equilibrium analysis, we can see that supposingly we look at the demand and supply of petroleum products in India, and if we see that the price of petroleum is going down, it will have an impact on the market for, say, automobiles, or it may have an impact on chemical industries. So one one change, or you can say an influence of a government policy in one market may have an impact on some related markets also. So supposingly if the air fuel, aviation fuel becomes cheaper, you will see that possibly the airline industries, if they are operating at their normal capacity, may reduce the fares. They may try to pass on the benefits temporarily, and that may increase the demand for tourism. People may uh, plan to travel by air rather than train, and that's how the preferences of consumers may change, the industry demand supply dynamics may change, and the related industries also change. For example, many a times you see that when petroleum products become expensive, they directly affect the transportation sector, and the higher transport costs actually get passed on to higher market prices of goods. So many a times a change in one market brings about a change in other markets also, and when you actually acknowledge these kinds of interactions taking place between different markets, you are actually conducting a general equilibrium analysis. What are the basic characteristics of a partial equilibrium approach? So, mainly how you can identify that you are undertaking a partial equilibrium approach is by looking at whether you're determining the price and quantity in a commodity market, or you're determining price and quantity in all the markets. So when it's only focused, say, or in a commodity market, or you are looking at the demand for inputs and supply of inputs in a factor input market, then the approach is of partial equilibrium analysis. In partial equilibrium analysis, the use of ceteris paribus clause is made very often, because many of the external factors and interactions and interdependencies are assumed to be constant. And you will see that partial equilibrium approaches mostly frequently used in consumer theory and producer theory. Partial equilibrium analysis also has its advantages. So it helps to understand and analyze changes in a particular sector or industry. Helps in understanding the initial effects and spillover effects. So supposingly the price of steel becomes cheaper, obviously it will increase the demand for steel in the steel industry. However, steel industry also works along with, or you can say it also supplies steel items or steel products to say automobile industry, or to say home appliances, kitchen appliances. So you will see that even those related industries benefit if the price of steel is becoming cheaper. Similarly, if the price of food grain is rising, or the price of tomato is rising, or the price of say potatoes are rising, so these are inputs. It will not only affect the demand, direct demand by households, it will also increase the price of say the items served in restaurants, or you can say you will also find some processed foods becoming expensive, like the ketchup may become expensive, or biscuits may become expensive if the input costs are rising. If sugar is becoming expensive, you will see all the items which use sugar as an ingredient also raising its price. So these are known as spillover effects. So not only that industry in which a change is occurring is getting affected, but even all the related industries are also getting affected. What are the characteristics of general equilibrium analysis? So the main characteristic is that everything depends on everything else. So you keep the analysis open and you look at the various interactions that happen, the various interrelationships, say between market for commodities and input markets. So you know that the demand for input is a derived demand. So if there is an increase in the demand for goods and services, it will also lead to an increase in the demand for inputs, because you require input to produce those goods and services. Then there is also interrelationship between input markets and household demand. So if input to markets unemployment is increasing, that means the household income may be falling. So you may see a fall in the demand for goods and services. Similarly, if in input markets the wages are rising, you will also see that the household demand for goods and services would rise. So these are all interdependent. Similarly, factor incomes and consumer demand. So as I just said, that if salaries are increasing, the demand for goods and services by consumers also would increase. So any change in one market affect other markets, that is known as spillover effect, and it is affected by other markets in case you are just studying one of the market but you're also looking at the impact of other markets. That's known as feedback effects. The spillover effect and feedback effects, these are the two effects which are taken into account whenever general equilibrium analysis is conducted. A very nice practical example in the current context we can think of these PPE kits. So the PPE kits are basically are in huge demand currently, because they are being used by all the medical personnels, all the medical practitioners, doctor community, nurses, and so far the domestic production of PPE kits was very less, so we were relying on imports, but it has been realized that it's better to start the production of PPE kits soon. So now that government is encouraging the domestic production of PPE kits, it basically implies that the demand for services from the textile industry would also increase, because for the manufacture of PPE kits you require skilled people. So the textile industry would directly get affected. It will directly see an increase in its demand. It will consequently increase the production of PPE kits, and all the related industries also will get affected by it. So if you need supposingly you need plastic also to be a part of its manufacturing, then the plastic industry also will see an increase in demand. Similarly, you can think of some items which have been traditionally imported, and if those imported items are banned or uh, they are in shortage, then the government may encourage domestic production of such goods. And whenever domestic production of some goods or services take place, it also has its spillover effects. So when this IT industry had come up in India in 1990s, IT, information technology and information technology enabled services, when these industries had come up, particularly in the Bangalore cluster and in Mumbai and Delhi cluster, they not only led to migration of IT personnel to these clusters, they also increased the demand for housing, because when people migrated because of jobs to these areas, they required the residential premises to live, and it also increased the demand for food and for related infrastructure. So you saw an increase in shopping malls, in upliftment of markets. You also saw many global brands entering such cities because they could see a very good consumer market in these zones, as generally since 1990s the salary package in the IT industry was relatively high, so people could afford a lot of other things, luxury goods and all. So there were spillover effects even in different industries which are not directly related to IT, but they also saw an increase in demand. So these are the two examples at how general equilibrium analysis can be understood, and it's actually very interesting because you can see that how an economy operates, and realistically we always are interdependent on various things, but that does not mean that partial equilibrium analysis will not give you a realistic study. Many a times when you want to study something particular, some particular aspect of a market or an industry, you have to focus your study on that industry or market, and that only may bring about the real reasons or solutions for that industry. So even partial equilibrium analysis, because it's a focus study, is equally important, and it helps in analyzing the direct impact of some external or internal event or government policy in that industry. Similarly, general equilibrium analysis also helps in understanding how various economic agents and institutions interact with each other. So both these approaches are extremely important. Some more advantages of general equilibrium analysis is that it's a means of examining and analyzing the economic system as a whole, and it follows a systematic approach to study the after effects, second or higher order effects of an economic change. So after effects are basically the spillover effects in other related markets of an economic change. As I said, that if the domestic production of PPE is increased or the domestic production of masks are increased, plus if the government is encouraging the medical research community to search for a vaccine or for a medicine, you will see the demand for demand in chemical industry rising. You will see demand in textile, plastic industry rising. Okay, so these are some of the industries which I have just named. You can think more than them, that how a government policy may bring about a change, an economic change in related industries also. So with this we complete the introduction about what is general equilibrium and how it is different from partial equilibrium. In the next lecture, we shall be discussing more about how general equilibrium analysis can be understood using Edgeworth boxes separately for consumer and producer theories. Till then, all of you take care. Thank you for your patient listening. Take care of your health and have a great time ahead. Thank you.